What's going on, folks? Painless. Gonna jump right into this. I did the video about Jacob Blake. I think that's his name. The young man that was shot by the police, and you know my feelings about that. But I want to get into something that I haven't touched on in a long time. And you know, in hindsight, I wish I kept a lot of those videos. But you know, with my moving around in life situations and things like that, things got misplaced, I guess you could say. But I did a video about Democratic ran cities. I did a video about black Democratic ran cities and how they hold the same ideologies: anti-gun, anti-police, anti-authority, free love. I mean, for the life of me, maybe I'm archaic in my thinking. Maybe I am. But it just doesn't make sense to me, and it's very minuscule. You're gonna be like, "Damn, Painless, really?" I just don't understand bike lanes on a road where you have a two-wheeled, non-motorized mode of transportation allowed to share the same space with about half a ton, 2-ton steel, can go in upwards of 160 miles per hour. I still don't understand why there are dedicated lanes to share with something that large and something that volatile, operated by two human beings. I still don't understand. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, see, stuff like that to me. You see this springing up all over cities, but they really started off in liberal-minded cities, liberal cities, where everyone should share, quote unquote, the road. Everyone has the right to share the road. It's things like that really began to, and of course things before that. But you see this violence, and I was watching TV, and I watch, regular cable television, which I rarely watch unless I have a particular show I like. It's, they were talking about this whole thing about Democratic ran cities, something that I've touched on maybe 8 years ago, and how they're violent. And then they had different, talking heads, and some guy from the CIA, and one of the reporters asked him, well, do you see any conclusive evidence to show that Democratic ran cities are more violent than, I guess you could say, conservative ran cities? Your Boise, Idahos, your Salt Lake City, Utahs, your Helena, Montanas, and it's a fact that there are more Democratic-minded ran cities. But see, one thing people are scared. See, and this is the media. The media will touch on race, but they won't touch on race. Black Democratic ran cities. Black police chief, black firefighter, black mayor. Let's go into that. Let's look at Chicago. Black mayor. And I'm not even going to really get into Chicago. We know what Chicago is. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Black female police chief. Philadelphia crime rate murder rate, not just crime, because there's a difference, and that and see the media loves to throw everything in a pot and call it gumbo. There's crime and then there's murder. Now, murder falls under crime, but murder is different from a B&E. Murder is different from an armed robbery, sexual assaults, things like that. Now, I think they're taking snippets in this pandemic because you have a lot of desperate people out here that are willing to take risks. This is why, and let me just say this, folks, be on your P's and Q's when you moving around nowadays. I don't care where you at. I don't care where you at. I'll just say Painless keeps that thing with him at all times. I'm just going to leave it there. But be on your P's and Q's now. People are desperate. People are watching. And you're paranoid. No, I'm not. I'm being a realist. Always keep your head, quote, on a swivel. Because people don't have nothing to lose these days with this pandemic. They're struggling. They're willing to do anything now. And you have the right to protect yourself, which leads me back to Democratic ran cities. They don't think you have the right to protect yourself. Case in point, Portland. Now, all those liberal-minded, and let me just say this. I'm not touting or putting conservatism up on a pedestal. No, I'm not. But I got to look at the stats. I got to look at evidence. Those leaders, that leadership up in Portland, Oregon, should be ashamed of themselves. To let this fester on, the likes of Seattle, in which they, you know what Seattle reminded me of? Where they sanctioned off or sectioned off a district where you had these low-life, bored, high-in-debt student loan. It's all about me, free love, and we should all share, and how dare you say this to me? I'm offended individuals. They sectioned off a sector where they could operate and babble and whine and bitch. Seattle. You know what that reminded me of? I don't know if you all remember a show called The Wire. Well, I believe Wire came in the late 90s. They ran in tandem with The Sopranos. It had gotten, the drug situation in Baltimore had gotten so bad. I can't believe it was on the west side or the east side. It had gotten so bad to where one of the commanders, he said, we're going to call this Amsterdam. So what he did, like they did in Seattle, he and the drug dealers came together and sanctioned a meeting to discuss how they were going to operate Amsterdam, excuse me. And it was, they had borders like, hey, if you come across, I don't know, Lafayette Street, we tacking that ass. Paddy wagon, all that. But long as you west of Lafayette Street, you can do what the hell you want to do. And it had, and I bring that up because what actually happened was higher leadership within the Baltimore Police Department, because that's where The Wire is set in, the city of Baltimore. The Baltimore brass leadership found out about it, and subsequently the guy, the major, great actor by the way, was forced to retire. I think he was stripped of rank, demoted, and he went on. But that's another story. But yeah, this leadership up there doesn't have the gall, doesn't have the fortitude to put the smash on these Antifa scoundrel do-nothings. So they let them run amok. And then when Trump, and let me say again, I'm not putting Trump up on a pedestal, but the facts are the facts. Now, Trump has offered to bring in assistance. No, we don't want your assistance. But yet, in the same breath, they blame Trump for all the violence and all the troubles that are going on in these cities. When in actuality, you see, and this goes back to the mind of individuals in terms when you're thinking about government. Look, you can't, when the man offers, and it can be anybody, when you, and this is just in life, if somebody offers you assistance and then you say no, and then when shit hits the fan, now you want to come back and say, well, if you would have gave me that $30, my phone would have been on and I would have got the call to come down here. But no, I offered that shit to you 2 weeks ago, but you said no. But now, you know, SHIT has hit the fan. Now you want to come back to me and say, why didn't you give me that $30? Well, shit. You said you had it under control. You said you was going to come up on $30. So I stepped the hell off. That's the mind of a lot of these young Antifa. And I've called this, and a lot of people forget about that whole Wall Street, the 1%, where you had all these nose ring, pink hair, fishnet, Doc Martin wearing females down here. These super feminist Nazis that, you know, just disgusting. And you had all these, the likes of those down there marching and talking about the 1% and Wall Street. Meanwhile, these kids, and let me tell you about these protesters, especially these Caucasian type protesters, a lot of them come from wealthy homes. But what has happened is they maybe come from a 4-child parent home, and they're the black sheep. The rest of the kids were smart. They used the resources of their parents, followed the rules, did what they were supposed to. And what you have in Portland, Seattle, is a bunch of rejects, wealthy family rejects, that have been cut out of the trust, have been OCS, thrown OCS on city streets, and now they're bitching and complaining. You know, choices, folks. Choices. This is what you have in Portland and Seattle. This wealthy trust fund baby, ex-trust fund baby rejects that are mad at the world because they pissed away their opportunity. Now let's get into the Negro who thinks he has found a comrade or a partnership with these individuals. Look, I've talked about the disingenuous white liberals and how they use situations like this to as an opportunity to get their points across and what they want. When in actuality, so, you know, they don't really care about that a black guy that's got shot down, irregardless of if it was justified or not. They're this opportunist. And the Negroes down there, these young, they're opportunists as well. I told you, you got a lot of broke people nowadays. And I get it, it's the pandemic. But you got a lot of bored people. You got a lot of opportunists. And like Kenosha. Kenosha, from my understanding, is not really that city to get popping like it is. I think it's just people that are coming, that are bored, unemployed, nothing to do. Let's go start some shit. And that's essentially what's going on, folks. Don't be swayed. But yeah, these Democratic ran cities are more violent and more forgiving of a crime. There's no absolute, and I'm going to say this, that young man that was shot in California, he is, I've talked about my family living in a notorious gang neighborhood called the Hoovers. And that part of Los Angeles is a subset of that larger gang in that neighborhood. And it's a lot of stuff going on down there. It's still unclear. I'm hearing the guy had a weapon. He punched one of the cops. But I will say this. If it is true why this young man was even stopped, it goes back to Democratic policies that are just ridiculous. It is said that this man was stopped for a bicycle violation, in which I guess he was going, I don't know if he was going the wrong way or something. But see, this is what I'm talking about. You know, and police, if you are in that area, is very, very violent. That part of Los Angeles, that part of South Central Los Angeles, the Westmont community near Imperial and Century down that way, there is, I don't, people have their own reasons, or they can't really get out of these impoverished areas. And that part of South Central is deadly. If I was a gang member, I would keep my weapon. I wouldn't care what the laws were. Like, you get caught with this gun, you're doing 5 at a minimum. First offense. Well, I'm just gonna have to deal with that. There is no way I wouldn't be strapped in that part of Los Angeles. No way in HELL. No way in hell I would be caught, as these youngsters call, lacking. No. To the liquor store, I'm strapped. McDonald's, I'm strapped. Swap meet, I'm strapped. Gas station, I'm strapped. But yeah, if this is why this guy was even stopped, it goes to show you, and Los Angeles is I don't know why people live in LA. I mean, it's, But yeah, I'm getting off on tangents, and I'm getting in my feelings. Let me step back. But yeah, these Democratic-ran cities are problematic. They're anti-gun. They want the police to do everything, but as we see in Portland, the police ain't doing shit because leadership isn't allowing them to do shit. See, there's a reason why stuff like that doesn't happen in, let's say, I don't know, Charlotte, North Carolina, or Birmingham, Alabama, or parts of Texas. You see, those fools that do protest, they do protest. But you will never, ever see nothing of the likes in the South happen like that, like what's going on in Portland and Seattle and LA and all that. Because, these, I'll say, white folks in the South, they're not really having that shit. Like, you can protest. Yeah, but all that, I mean, there's little flare-ups, but that shit that's going on in Portland, in which people are getting killed now, you got people that are getting killed up there, and these leaders aren't doing nothing about it. Versus Republican or conservative cities, and again, I'm not putting one up against the other, but you don't see that. It's a different mentality. And I've talked about the academic intelligentsia before, where a lot of this, oh, I deserve it. Why? Just because. Well, you didn't do nothing for it. Well, he has it. She has it. I deserve it. A lot of that liberal-minded has been festering in our colleges, and it's trickling down into the elementary schools, and which all this LGBT and certain studies and this sensitivity and yeah, but this society is changing before our eyes. In another 15 years, it's going to be unrecognizable, the society, if you're somewhat of my age. And like I've told you about, just being a heterosexual male, we're becoming like dinosaurs. Either you toe the line, either you enjoy the fact that someone likes to pillow bite or munch on carpets. If you don't like that, then we're going to squeeze you out and you'll be ostracized. You'll be looked at as weird, part of the old guard. Your ways didn't work. You're warmongers. You're the reason why we had to come to this situation. That's what we're moving to, men and women that support and really understand what's going on. I just, you love who you love. Well, love to me is, it's an emotion. It can come and go, but we do love. But you do what you want to do. I would never discriminate against anyone personally that likes someone of the opposite sex, or of the same sex or gender, whatever the hell you want to call it. I would never discriminate against no one like that because I could care less. But you're not going to force me to accept that, and I will never accept that. This whole Niecy Nash situation, and I'm going to touch lightly on this. I've talked about degenerative black culture in the so-called black community, in which people, a lot of black folks, we crave attention more than others. And it brings me back to the young man who was killed in that part of South Central Los Angeles. Why black men run? And I've looked at comments, and there's this new thing. It's not new. I've talked about the hoax in the so-called black and brown unity. It doesn't exist. I had no qualms with Hispanics, but I understand Hispanics. They have a different outlook, typically, than the members in the so-called black community. And case in point, I was looking at comments on this particular story, and a lot of the Hispanics are like, well, if you ain't do nothing, why you run? Or why did you run? Or if you did it, own up to it. And that's very telling, because if you look at and Hispanics, they live in the hoods all over in low impoverished neighborhoods along with us, but they do things different. They're more structured. There's still some level of class and dignity in their criminal underworld. I mean, you got scoundrels and but a lot of the stuff that has started amongst blacks and browns in the underworld, scrambling for crumbs, has been initiated by the shadiness of black criminals. Like, if you brown, you Mexican, I'm black, let's do this dope deal. I mean, there's stuff that happens, but you even hear old gang members say, hey, yeah, we started that with we was robbing Pisces and old, anybody. Because we know they just carry cash. So yeah, we was robbing them and doing all that. And, it wasn't no old Mexican men robbing. It wasn't no young Mexicans robbing old black ladies back in the day. The shit started with us. And that's just real. It is what it is. But, there's something that we're lacking in the so-called black community, to where you can't connect the dots that if you run, something problematic could happen. Why are you running? If you're a criminal, if you're a gang member, you dedicated your life to this, own up to that shit. You've been caught. It's the job of the police to catch me, and it's the job of the police for me to get away. Now, getting away doesn't necessarily mean put my life at risk. I'm not going to be, you got these gray, big old black men running down the street, yelling and screaming and dying and getting shot in the back like a dog. To me, that's not gangster. That's not respectable. That's kind of cowardly to go out like that. And I know in certain Hispanic criminal organizations, if that's bitch made to do stuff like that. And I respect that. I feel the same way. But the whole black and brown unity thing, it's not I don't agree with it, it's a farce. And it's a farce that's perpetuated by black folks. You don't hear La Raza talking about black on, what blacks are going through. And they shouldn't be. You handle your stuff over there, we handle ours. But black folks, we have the tendency to try to group everybody because we're looking for allies. It's so obvious. But you got to recognize that these people aren't necessarily allies. They can get in the way and they can muddy the waters for whatever you trying to do. Whatever you trying to do, all these so-called black leaders, you do not need those types of allies. You just need to keep it black. That's my thing. But yeah, I talked about Niecy Nash. I was about to, and I'm kind of all over the place because I have things I got to do. Yeah, this confusion, boredom, trendy, a fetish. A lot of people have, a lot of these a lot of these celebrities just have a fetish. Let me try to be a lesbian for like 2 months. Let me take it up to, let me see how it feels. And, it's trendy. It's attention. And as black folks, we love attention. We love to bring attention to ourselves. It just amazes me. And I think there's a mental illness with that amongst millions of black folks that strive for all types of attention. Negative, positive, it doesn't matter as long as I'm getting attention. Look at me. And that's what a lot of black folks suffer from. The look at me. Hey, I'm over here. Pay attention to me, damn it. Type mentality that we suffer from. And I'm not going to get into reasons why. No, I'm not. I could do another almost 28-minute video on that. But I'm going to cut this short. Y'all have a good day. Painless out.